Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vulnerability Time podcast. I am your host, published author, and PhD candidate, Josias Abriel. Before we get started, folks, just a couple quick announcements. One, the show is now accepting donations. We need to get a new laptop to continue the show. So I have a Cash App in the episode description below. You just click on the link tree and you can donate. Anything helps. There's this used laptop that I was looking at, and it's about $600 something. So that I will be needing to get that to. I found like the best and cheapest used laptop to be able to record the show, because the current laptop, she's dying on us, folks, and the software and the updates, it's starting to do its thing again. So if you would like to donate to help the show out, please do so. Anything helps. Also, if you are listening on YouTube, give this a like. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please give this a 5-star rating. It will help the algorithm. I do need 10 more 5 stars to continue the show. So if you could please do that, I would truly appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Alrighty, okay, so folks, today we'll be talking about childhood emotional conditioning, why so many adults feel not good enough, and identity after trauma. But before we get into that, we have a new guest to the show, MaryBeth. Hello, great to have you on the Vulnerability Time podcast.
Hello, I am so excited to be here and talk about things that I think everybody can relate to and that we all need.
Yes, exactly. And tell us a little bit about you. Like, do you have any work coming out? What do you currently do? Things of that nature.
Yes. So I am a licensed professional counselor. I own a group practice. If you hear the Southern accent, it is in South Haven, Mississippi. However, we now live in Southern Oregon. But I'm also a mental health blogger. I have a book that I'm currently looking for an agent for to get published that helps people understand where these voices of their inner critic came from and what to do with them. Mm-hmm. And I also am on social media, and I have a free guide for any of your listeners to download for them to better understand their feelings of not good enough and where those came from and what to do with them.
Yes. Beautiful. And we can find that in the links below. So folks, check the episode description and all the links will be there. So MaryBeth, if there's so can we get this all through your website?
Yes, it is. Yeah, theinnerchildtherapist.com, correct.
Wonderful, wonderful. So what got you, before we get into our topics, what got you into therapy? And what are those credentials? Like, what's the acronym? Yes. LMCW or LM?
LPC, Licensed Professional Counselor. Yes. And so what got me into it was many years of thinking that I didn't have a good excuse to go to therapy until I was 28 years old and driving to the gym, and I was hit head on by a drunk driver. And I had what's called the hangman's death, the injury that people have when they are hanged to kill them. And so I was told that I was permanently paralyzed from the neck down. As you can see, I am not, thankfully. And so I have had a very tough physical journey and still do. Just had an MRI this morning for injuries from, 16 years ago. But I went to therapy because I was in a very dark place after my wreck. And again, I felt like I had an excuse now to go to therapy. And so I went to therapy to work through some of that. And very quickly in therapy, I realized that the wreck was a very tiny part of why I should be in therapy.
Gotcha.
And it was childhood trauma was the
Yeah.
bulk of the struggles that I had dealt
Mm,
with and pretended didn't exist and pretended that I was fine,
right.
and had built a life that others would on the outside be envious of
Right.
while being miserably depressed on the inside.
Right.
And so after my wreck, obviously I wasn't able to work. When I was finally able to return to work, I couldn't work for long due to multiple surgeries that I needed.
Right.
Since I was physically not okay, but mentally I was,
Hmm.
I decided to go to graduate school to be a therapist
Yeah.
because I had seen the value of therapy and I had
Mm,
that I could get out from under that cloud that I thought was just life and just the way my life would always be.
yeah.
And I wanted to help other people
Mm,
see that healing is possible for anybody.
wow. And that statement, healing is possible for anybody. Have you ever had times in your journey where you felt as though it was impossible? I know I have.
Yes, yes,
Hmm.
absolutely. And I think anybody who is honest with themselves, truly honest,
Hmm.
would be able to say the same. And,
Yeah.
I spent the bulk of my childhood, adolescence, and early adulthood just thinking there was no help, that that's
Right.
just what my life was going to be. And
Right.
if anybody had told me that at my age now, at 44,
Hmm.
that I would have a life that I could truly and honestly say I am content in and love many, many parts of it, I would have told them that they were crazy. And yeah, that's a nice dream, but it's not one I'll have.
Mm. Reason I asked that is because in I can say now healing is so possible, so worth it, and we are all worthy of healing. However, in my moments in the past where I didn't feel that, um, I wish I had someone speak as honestly as you just did.
Yes.
Because it's easy to, easier well, I wouldn't say it's always easy, but I often have heard back then, you know, folks, just say the perfect
Cliche.
phrases.
Yeah.
Yeah, which have truth to it, like, healing is possible.
Mhm.
However, hearing that in a moment where I'm not feeling that is true, I'm like, something must be wrong with me
Yes.
because, when you hear that over and over, folks saying the perfect phrases and leaving out the other realities of it, it can
Mhm.
make someone who's in a reality that's not being spoken, it can make them feel like something's wrong with them and maybe that doesn't apply to them. So to
Yes.
hear someone say healing is possible, and I've also felt like it wasn't, because there's that journey, that up and down, that, and what if someone's hearing that positive statement in a low moment? They need to hear, guess what? I was in that low moment too, and I think healing is possible. Still say healing is possible. Then they're going to look at that and be like, okay, wow, it is. And it's okay that, I'm feeling this way,
Yeah.
and that's not the end. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that I tell clients I work with that, first of all, I'm not the right therapist for everybody by any means.
Right.
But that if they ever decide I'm not, that in my opinion, and there are going to be a lot of people this irritates, and a lot of therapists who are going to disagree with me on this, but I believe that when you go to therapy, you have the right to ask your therapist if he or she has ever been to therapy.
Right.
And if he or she says no or refuses to answer, me as a client would get up and walk out.
Right.
Because if a therapist has not done their own healing work, they're potentially, and a high potential at that, going to harm me
Right.
unintentionally. But not only that, if a therapist has not sat in that chair and done their own work, then they should not sit in front of you and ask you to do yours.
Right. I've always heard every good therapist has a therapist or has been to therapy.
Yes. And we'll continue to go when we
Yes,
need to because life
it
happens and
happens.
we need to go back when we're struggling.
Yes. I love that. Oh, you know, um, you had mentioned, so childhood. Um, you know, I before we get into the childhood emotional conditioning, because that's a topic that I don't hear much about when talking childhood. I myself, um, I have talked about it, in therapy and things like that, but I don't know if I've talked about it as much on the show.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful that you're here and wanting to talk about that. Um, so childhood, I too had wished everything was fine. Um, I too had wished that, right? And so, do you hear that feedback?
Uh-uh.
Feedback of when I'm speaking, there's like a feedback. Folks, it's vulnerability time. Things happen. We as long as we can hear Mary Beth and myself clearly. So just bear with us. It's a great episode. Um, so tell us a little bit. Well, you don't even have to do a little bit. Just tell us, you know, your journey with childhood emotional conditioning. Like, what did that look like? Why that topic? Like, how did that show up in your life?
Yeah. So everything that I write about and that I speak about comes from the majority of it comes from my own healing, from things that I've experienced and some from experiences of clients and people I know. And when I say childhood emotional conditioning, I think about my own childhood and not having recognized, obviously, as a child, the conditioning that was taking place.
Mhm.
And I think that every single person in the world is conditioned in different ways from three different places, institutions, whatever you want to call it: family, society, and culture.
Mhm.
And I think that the norms of those often leave us feeling like we're not good enough if they don't fit for us. For example, and for many times throughout my life, I really kind of thought that I didn't have culture because
Mhm.
I'm just a white girl. I didn't think that
Mhm.
I had culture. But that when I started looking back and thinking, no, I absolutely have culture. It's just a lot of the culture is stuff I don't like.
Mhm.
The Southern white culture that I was raised in, for a, quote unquote lady to be a Southern lady, I was supposed to keep my mouth shut. If I didn't agree with somebody, I just smile and pretend that I do.
Right.
I was not supposed to have a voice if it was not the voice of everyone else. I was not supposed to enjoy the things that I enjoyed: sports, being outside. I, was supposed to be wearing hair bows all the time and being
Mhm.
super, super girly. I was supposed to be pretty much everything that I was not. And
Right.
so when I got that
Mhm.
conditioning from family, society, and culture, and something within me, even as a little bitty girl, knew that that wasn't who I was, but it was what I was supposed to be.
Right.
What I heard, either implicitly or explicitly, over and over, was I wasn't good enough,
Mm.
that everything about me was not good enough.
Right.
And I think of all of the different ways that I'd affected me and affected so many people, everybody, in my opinion,
Mhm.
of how they're supposed to be,
Right.
um, who they're supposed to be, and surely who they are not supposed to be.
Right.
And so we build our identities throughout our entire lives, and our relationships, our professions, everything about us is based on who family, society, and culture told us we were supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that was me for many years. I mean, even to my major in undergrad was
Hmm.
broadcast journalism. Okay, well, that would never have done well for me. I'm not somebody that would have enjoyed being a reporter in
Hmm.
any way, but I was supposed to do what my mom wanted me to do.
Hmm.
I was supposed to be on TV so that, she could tell all her friends, oh, look at what my daughter's doing.
Right. Right.
Um, and that never worked. I had to finish my degree in that. And then I went into sales, and then I went into pharmaceutical sales because I was supposed to have this big, fancy, prestigious career. And
Right.
I was supposed to be making all of this money. And I was
Hmm.
supposed to be in this career that, very few could get into.
Hmm.
But what I wasn't supposed to be was miserable.
Right.
And I was. And so I think that our inner critic is voices from this emotional conditioning
Yeah.
that we hear all day, every day, everything that we do. We look in the mirror,
Right.
and, my hair looks this way or that way. Oh,
Hmm.
well, it's not supposed to,
Yeah.
you know? And so I think that the key to navigating this is to be able to identify where the voices came from.
Right.
And when
Yeah.
we do that,
Hmm.
then we are letting ourselves know that that's not our voice.
Right.
And we may not know our voice yet,
Yes.
but it lets you know it's not your voice that you're hearing.
Right.
And when you know what something is not, you can look at then what is it?
That was powerful. I have three things. One, have you ever thought about having your own podcast? Uh,
I have, and one day maybe I have. You are not the first person
yeah.
to suggest that, but
Yes.
one of the things I did forget to mention at the beginning that is the most important is I'm a mom
Yeah.
of the most precious, almost seven, as he says, he is 6 and 11 twelfths right
Mm-hmm.
now, about to be seven, little boy. And so I'm a stay at home mom.
Mm-hmm.
When he is not in school, I'm a stay at home mom. I also manage my practice. And so time is limited, and I'm very
Right.
cautious about the
Mm.
time that I do have to spend with him, but also because of my physical issues from my wreck, I have to spend a lot of time resting.
Right.
And
Right.
so maybe one day, but for
Right.
now, I have to honor my body and my son.
That's right. Oh, I love honor the two. There is this fabulous lady. She was a guest on my show. Y'all remember Barb's episode in season 10. And her show, she only has special guests who are women.
Mm.
And I think a lot of what you said, I think I'm gonna put y'all in contact with each
Yes,
other. I
please
would
do.
love for you to be a guest on her show.
Yeah.
Um, I love her mission, and folks who have followed me from season one know that I am all for women empowerment. Like
Yes.
my pronouns are she, they, for crying
Yeah.
out loud. Like I just,
Mhm.
you know, but like I'm all for women empowerment. And so like, uh, something that um she had said was, women were taught to not take up space.
Yes.
It's time for women to take up space. And I love that. And
Yes.
so hearing, the conditioning of what society in a culture or our environment or media, our peers who are also just as socialized, are telling us, what, like you said, whether inadvertently or advertently, just
Mhm.
they're telling us, be be what you're supposed to be, not who you are.
Mhm.
And so one day I had to look myself in the mirror and I asked, am I me or am I just who they wanted me to be?
Yes.
Hmm.
It is amazing that you were able to ask yourself that question,
Hmm.
because one of the things that I say so often, and I tell my clients, and it sounds morbid, but it is not. Most people die
Hmm.
never knowing who they
Who they
are.
are. Exactly.
And that is because they weren't allowed or saw that they could be allowed to
Yes.
be who they are. And that's one of the things that I think so many people, there's a million self-help books on there all about
Hmm.
it and everything of finding yourself. Well, I think that's BS. I don't think you
Yeah.
need to find yourself. You're not
Right.
lost.
Right.
What happened is you were born this precious, beautiful soul,
Mm-hmm.
and life happened, covered it up. Trauma happened,
Yeah.
dysfunctional families, culture, race, identity, all of these things, medical issues
Hmm.
covered up that true soul identity. And it's not that you are lost, it's that all of this
Mm.
hid your true soul identity. So it's not about finding, because again, you are not lost, even though you feel you are and can be in the deepest, darkest place. You are not lost. It
Right.
is about removing those layers of life to
Yes.
return to your
Mm.
true soul identity, who you were meant to be,
Yes.
but didn't remember.
I saw a post yesterday that said exactly that. It said, you basically, what did it say? Darn, it was something. I'm trying to remember the words verbatim, but I can't remember the words verbatim. But I remember how I felt. And I remember the overall principle, which was exactly what you just said. It's saying, like, you are, you're not, you don't need to necessarily, quote unquote, become something.
Yeah,
You just have to remove and unlearn what society placed upon you. Because
absolutely.
you're there. You're
Yeah.
there. You just got to remove those. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I think
Yes.
too, when one of the first questions I ever ask a client is, tell me who you are.
Mm,
I've never, ever in over a decade had somebody initially be able to answer that,
yeah.
because what I hear is either I don't know, which is a beautiful answer too.
It's a very beautiful answer.
Yes.
Yep.
Or
I've been there.
they name all of the roles that they have had in life. If I were to do that, I'm a therapist, I'm a mom, I'm an owner, I'm a wife, I'm an aunt, I am a speaker, all of these things. Well, guess what? I could tell you all that. You could read that on a piece of paper, and you know nothing about me.
Right.
It tells you nothing about who
Who
I
I
am.
am.
But we attach our identities to the roles and the emotional conditioning and
Yes.
who we believe we're supposed to be. And so most do not know who they are.
Right. Mary Beth, I have to say this. I'm literally overwhelmed with gratitude and appreciation for your existence. And I want to thank you personally, thank you. And I'm not even just saying this. I want to personally thank you for helping others. Thank you for doing that because the system, society, and I'm not bashing everyday folk. I'm not bashing them. I'm bashing the ones at the top who are doing a lot of orchestrating, right?
Yes.
And telling us, okay, because you're this, you should be this, and only that. Forget the human silhouette. You're a box now.
Yeah.
And because you're a box, now we're able to move it because now you don't have limbs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so thank you for helping others um relearn themselves. That is
Yes.
so important and it's just so beautiful. And I've asked, and I love how you said, that answer, I don't know, is a beautiful answer.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely said that answer in the past. I remember and I've asked myself that two, three major times in my life, and I remember like um, the second time was the most, I would say, impactful. They were all extremely impactful, but the second time, um, this was when I was ready to, and at a place, where I could now shed the trauma identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for example, folks would always say, "You're so patient, you're so kind, And genuinely, I am a kind person. I'm a kind person. Um,
But what was the emotional conditioning that told you to
exactly.
be that?
Exactly. And that's the thing. And and a lot of the times when folks would say I'm a kind person, it's because I was also people pleaser. We just didn't recognize it as such. And
Yes.
so, but I guess I'll stick with the patience aspect more to prove the point. Just
Hmm.
because I'm still a kind person, but like back then it was coupled with people pleaser, like 100%.
Hmm.
Um, but once I started healing and unlearning so many things and going inwards and going outwards, just, that whole process of the trauma journey, um, I was way less patient. Folks couldn't tell, but I could internally tell that I was just way less patient. And that gave me that aha moment of, was I really that patient or was I just traumatized?
Hmm.
So it taught me and it showed me, okay, um, there's more. There is so much more, to me. There's so much more in the healing arena.
Hmm.
So much more to unlearn, so much more to learn.
Yeah.
Again, learn who Josias truly is, right?
Mhm.
Um,
And was
yeah,
the patience being
yeah,
patient because you knew the place you were supposed to be in. You knew your
exactly.
place and how you didn't belong somewhere, or how you were only allowed to be and to be small and quiet,
Yes.
which was construed as patience.
Exactly. And that came from as a child. So I noticed, like I was always, I knew I was always attracted to men. I just knew that. But I was somewhat socialized to like how, a girl would be.
Mm.
And though my parents hated me and beat me, but I was also socialized way differently. And it took me getting my PhD in sociology to see that aspect of like socialization, right? Looking like looking back, I was like, wow, my brother was socialized a lot differently than me.
Yeah.
He was socialized more to speak. I was socialized. There was like all these qualities that women are socialized to be, and they were like my parents would socialize me to be like that. And so the being quiet, the playing small, and me being beaten for speaking, but my brother wasn't.
Yeah.
So that's where that quote unquote patience started.
Yeah.
And so I knew that a lot of things started, almost everything, I would say everything, started as a child, you know, um, that socialization connection aspect where I was like, my brother was it was different with my brother, you know, my parents weren't all that great they just had a lot of money and that's all that they had, and they will throw that in our face
Mm.
every day to escape accountability.
I gave you a good childhood.
Yes, exactly. And I'm just like, all it was a big house. That was literally it. I don't know what a mother or a father is by
Yeah.
relationship. I only know that by DNA. Um, but yes, but my brother though, he, yeah, I don't know, like it was just such an aha moment to see like a year ago is when I'm 28 now, but a year ago is when I finally saw that, wow, like he was socialized. I was socialized a lot different.
Yeah.
Like,
And something I noticed
yeah,
in you speaking about the trauma of your childhood and the emotional conditioning of when you said about how you were beaten,
yeah,
One, you held your breath and you moved so quickly through that as if it
Mm,
were minor because you were taught, okay, this was it, move on. and
yes.
and even with the work you have done on yourself, it is still ingrained in you that that is not that big of a thing, and you survived and you're fine and you had a nice house.
Right. Wow. That's a good point. I'm going to bring that to my therapist.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I do that. Looking back, I do that a lot when I talk about the beaten aspect. Now, the sexual abuse aspect, oh, yeah, I delve into that, but the beaten part, I do always. Folks, have y'all now looking back at it, have y'all noticed that too? Like I notice it, like even like on this show, like when I speak about it, it's definitely different. Thank you so much for seeing it.
Yes.
I see myself and I see a lot of like humanity. We're like not necessarily vehicles, but I see it kind of like as a vehicle. No matter how big the windows are, no matter how big the mirrors are, there can still be blind spots.
Yeah.
And thank you for seeing that blind spot in me because
Yeah.
like the person standing outside the vehicle, they can see that there's an 18-wheeler back there.
Mhm.
They can see that there's a car or a little mini vehicle back there or a motorcyclist, something small, something big.
Mhm.
But when we're in the vehicle, we may miss it.
Yeah.
So it takes another to help us see that sometimes. So
Yes.
thank you so
Yes.
much.
Yeah. And I appreciate you receiving it.
Oh, I receive it.
Yes. And it makes me think of another point too, of how one of the things that infuriates me, that even though you and I are in different generations, I think that this was still prevalent for both of us. The be thankful for what you have because somebody else had it worse. Well, that is what kept me from going to therapy, because
Yes.
in my childhood, when I asked to go to therapy, my father was an alcoholic.
Hmm.
We had to, when I was 8 years old, we had to leave the home due to the violence.
Hmm.
And it was not one time. There were multiple times when there was violence in the home. And at 8 years old, everything I knew as safety was gone. It was never discussed. Matter of fact, I was told, don't you ever tell anybody about this.
Uh-huh.
And
Mhm.
yeah. And so I was scared to. And even just that, I was scared to have friends after that. They couldn't come to the house because what if it happened? So I isolated myself. But also, even as an adult years ago, trying to discuss the impact of that with my mother, even her response was, you act like it was such a bad childhood. It was only a few times that the violence was so bad that we had to leave, but you had a good childhood. Don't you know other children had it worse? You should choose to be happy. I don't know why you've always talked about, your dad being a severe alcoholic and having a traumatic childhood, because you didn't. You had a nice home, you got to play sports, all of
Mhm.
this. So that was over and over in my head, that I really thought there is something really screwed up with me, because why do I feel this way when it wasn't a big deal?
Right. Oh, we've both heard the same words by parent. My mother said it the most.
Hmm.
My father, he was very, um, very. I'm trying not to use the word toxic masculinity. I'm trying to be more graceful, and because I understand folks are socialized differently, I don't know. I would say, how about misguided masculine? Folks, think of the just whatever term. I'm trying to be great. I'm
Oh,
trying to sound graceful for myself because it's easy for me to get judgmental towards males.
correct me if I'm wrong,
Hmm.
but culturally, I'm assuming that your dad is a black man,
He's Puerto Rican.
Puerto Rican. Okay. So even
He's
I
white
think
and Puerto
it could,
Rican.
okay, I think this could still apply
Yeah.
to the Puerto Rican side of him, of
Yes.
what men
Hmm.
who are Puerto Rican are taught
Yes.
is that macho, what I say
Hmm.
goes, and you follow me,
Yes.
and this is how you are, and you have to be this way. That's what he was socialized to be.
Exactly. Yes. And it makes it understandable. Doesn't make it okay, but it
Doesn't
makes it
excuse it.
understandable. And
Yes.
so I'm in a place now in my healing journey where I'm able to extend and want to extend that type of grace and understanding while still validating. But I realized that I needed to go through that, being frustrated with that, and especially when, patriarchy. Of course, well, patriarchy. That's not something I'll ever be okay with or accept. But anyways, in this regard of men, yes, to have that understanding. But he was very that. So I already knew, even expressing any type of emotion, when I knew it wasn't a weakness by the time that I was ready to talk about things, I knew it wasn't a weakness. However, I know no matter what I say, he's not going to think otherwise, and his response is going to just cause harm. And
Right.
I knew it because I've tried to talk about small things. Oh no, he's just not. But yes, I like how you mentioned because um, toxic masculinity is or misguided masculinity is can be taught to anyone regardless of culture, but different cultures it does show up a little bit differently.
Yes.
It's like its own version in different cultures it can be. So I love that you mentioned that. Are you a sociologist by chance?
No.
Oh, because I
No.
mean it sounds like you went to class with me.
No.
You
No.
have,
But
you have
you
said
know,
so many sociological terms. You have.
yeah. Well, and one of the things when you were talking about like having the compassion piece and part of your or healing from looking at your childhood, um, is I tell myself and I tell others that yes, they may have done the best they could,
Right.
and maybe some of it is, but a lot of it may not have even been intentional harm. But that does not mean that there was
Mhm.
still not harm.
Exactly.
And when you're mentioning your dad, that he's always going to stay where he is.
Mhm.
And, my mom is the same way. And there's nothing that I say or write about that I have not said to her. And I don't say these things as a way to shame her, but it is my truth. And this is what I say, that if she were to acknowledge the reality of my childhood,
Yeah.
I don't think she could continue living because the weight of what that
Yes.
would do for her to recognize the harm and the trauma that I went through,
Mhm.
and that she had a part in that, even if it were not intentional, even if she
Right.
didn't know what to do to help.
Right.
I think her soul would choose to be done because it would be too much.
Too
And
much.
for that, I
Yes.
absolutely forgive her. And
Mhm.
I hope that one day she finds peace and compassion for herself because I know that she doesn't.
Right. You know, you said that was very powerful, very valid, and that makes a lot of sense. The responsibility can bear burden.
Right.
And and I love that you're still able to recognize, like, even though she may have not known. Because for me, like, I don't fault my mother for not knowing certain things. I completely, and I understand, like, some people that may not be the case for them. They may still be mad at their parent. That was never me. Like, even as the young kid, I'm like, if she wasn't there, I, she just wasn't. She wasn't. She was at work when father was abusing, and but there was some abuse that she was there for, but um I was still able to make like I never faulted her for I was never upset at her for what she didn't know and
Yeah.
things of that nature. So but I love that you said that. But yeah, the burden of responsibility can be too heavy for folks to bear, especially you know which sucks because a lot of folks who burden doesn't even have their name on it are the ones forced to carry it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
giving it back to the person who is name on, yeah, I mean they've gone so long without carrying it that when all that weight, especially has time has passed by, I'm assuming that will increase guilt if they
Hmm.
were to
Yes.
receive it at like
Right.
yeah. So that
Yeah.
would be, I'm glad that you said that. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that.
Yeah. And I also want to add something too, because when I was saying that about where I am with the hoping
Yeah.
she that has the compassion for herself and all that, and that I can see that, I also want to fully own
Mhm.
that I am not always in that place with her.
Right,
There are
right.
times that come up that
Mhm.
somebody says something, something happens, or something doesn't happen, where
Mhm.
my inner child comes back out and I am raging and
Yes.
angry at
Yes.
her. And so it's not about just me being in this great place and, oh, loving and peace and blah,
Right.
blah, blah. There are times I am raging. And
Yes.
that is when I have to step back, and either I go back to therapy or I step back and I listen to my soul, because my soul is what I was previously speaking. And I
Yes.
do what I need to do to get myself back there.
Yes, exactly. There those moments, right? There are those definitely those moments. I- I'm grateful that I am able to experience all the complexities.
Mm-hmm,
Um, because once upon a time I didn't know how to. I
mm-hmm.
didn't know how to have understanding and be so upset and disappointed, especially there when there's a lot of effort and energy on her part that went into running away from responsibility.
Yeah,
Right. You
yeah.
know?
And one of the things that you said, something along the lines of you didn't know how to. That is one of the biggest points I think that most people miss, because we go straight to, I'm not good enough. Why did I do that? Beating
Yeah.
ourselves up for things that we've
Mhm.
done in the past, or having dysfunctional relationships, just all of these things that's in our minds that we beat ourselves up for. And the one question I ask people is, who taught you how to express your feelings in a healthy way? Who? Nobody, for the majority of people. Nobody. So, how
Wow.
in the hell, excuse my language, are you supposed to know how to do something that you were never taught, that you never had a guide, that you never saw
Mm.
modeled? Just like a little bitty baby, if a baby came in here right now trying to learn how to walk and that baby stood up and fell 460,000 times, would you look at that baby and say he was a failure? No, you would not. And if you did, I would punch you in the head, because that
Yes.
baby is learning.
Right.
We are learning something we were not taught.
Y- Wow. That is powerful. Exact. Oh, by the way, it's vulnerability time. You can cuss, you can whatever.
All right.
Um, oh my goodness. That is so true. You know what? This is just what a gift. What a gift, Mary Beth. Thank you so much. I'm not ending the episode. I have to express gratitude. Like, you know, hearing someone I love hearing when like I've been through something or someone else has been through similar or the same thing. I love just hearing words of validation
Yeah.
because it is so common. And I'm not saying it's like this every single time, but it's very common for those who've experienced abuse. Like I hear it commonly, the invalidation,
Right.
and when my brother, but well, I'm not, my mother, how about that? Because that's what hurt me the most when she invalidated me.
Mm.
It caused what I know now as a mother betrayal wound.
Yeah.
And that's something that I mean, she can't understand or process or
Right.
wants to. Um, and so, I'm thankful to therapy. I'm thankful for just doing research. I'm just thankful for so many things that, in my healing journey that helped me put, you know, some verbiage to what I was experiencing so that I can move forward and learning what I'm experiencing, learning the complexities, reading more about it, being present with it, being self-aware in the moment,
Mm.
what just triggered me, what just triggered that, things of that nature. But it caused a mother betrayal wound. And that is, I, I don't, I, that just changes a relationship.
And in my opinion, that mother wound, and this is very honest, it is a wound that I don't think ever fully heals.
I was just about to say that, but then I was like, maybe I just haven't met, but looking into it and watching YouTube videos on it, I have not found one person that has said that they have fully or
Yeah,
quote unquote healed with that. I've never,
yeah. And I'm okay with the part that hasn't healed because it
yeah,
allows me to be the mother that my child deserves.
you're gonna make me cry. That was so beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you. One of the other things that popped into my head when you were talking about not getting that validation, acknowledgement, validation, all of that.
I'm listening. Go ahead.
Yes. Is that it's so funny that you just said you needed a napkin for the tears coming up from this, because when we don't have the validation, when we don't have acknowledgement of the harm and the trauma that was caused, that means our needs were not met. And when our needs are not met, we grow up believing our needs don't matter. And when we have needs, we don't know that they exist. We don't know how to get them met, or we try everything under the sun to get them met and get them met in many unhealthy ways. I did that for many years. But you just then identifying what your need was and getting it is huge, even though for many people that might seem small. But when you have trauma that was not acknowledged and there was not the validation, a little bitty kid does not think, oh, this shouldn't have happened. I need somebody to be here for me. I need somebody to hold me, hug me, tell me I'm beautiful and I'm enough
Right.
and all of this. A
Mhm.
child instead says, something is
Something's
wrong
wrong
with
with
me.
me. How did I know you were gonna say that part? We know that statement. We've
Yes,
all
because it's
yeah.
played in here. It's played
Yes.
over and over and over in our
Hmm.
heads.
Yes. And that exactly like what's going on inside the child. Of course they're gonna think what's wrong with me. They're not gonna know what to do with all of these complex emotions, these heavy, heavy, heavy things that, you know, and I'm not bashing emotions. Their emotions are, neutral. But these heavy, heavy things that goes on in their body when they don't even, fully understand the world going on around them anyways. They're children
Mhm.
for a reason.
Yeah. And if their body says, I need affection, I need a hug, I need somebody to wrap their arms around me and show me that I am safe, and they don't get that, what happens in their sweet little baby brains is, something's wrong with me for needing this. I shouldn't need that. So what is wrong with me? Not what the hell is wrong with the adults in my life not giving me a
Right.
basic need and meeting this. And so, like I was saying, either you typically go one of two ways, or your needs don't matter, or these needs,
Hmm.
they exist and you do everything under the sun to try to get
Yes.
them met. And I promise you, if there was a way to get unhealthy attention and unhealthy needs met
Hmm.
by a man,
Hmm.
I tried it from probably age 15 to close to the in almost 30. I tried
Yes.
it all and none have ever worked. But looking back, I do not have shame of all the things I did, because, like I said earlier,
Hmm.
nobody taught me how to do it in a healthy way.
Exactly.
Of course, you fall on your face.
Yes. Right. Exactly. N- Beautiful. I love the grace. I love the grace. Folks, have grace on yourself. No one taught you how to. You are teaching yourself. You are learning. Like that analogy with the baby, right?
Yeah.
Like, and speaking of something that you had mentioned about, going from what's wrong with me to what's wrong with the adults in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So folks know that I've started my healing journey at the age of 15 because of my NDE. For those who don't know what NDE means, it just means near death experience where I died, left my body, literally left my body. It was great, great experience. Well, what led up to it was awful, but being out of my body and going on what I call the other side or eternity, that was extremely beautiful. You can check out that episode 130,
Wow.
folks. Yes, very, very, very beautiful. Where I talk about it, episode 130. But um, going back to the point, was at 15 is when I started my healing journey. Folks, it took me until I was 23, 5 years ago, for it to finally set in me that nothing was wrong with me, it was the adults.
What if it's not finally? Because actually, that's a very young age to do that work. Most people die never doing the work.
That is very true. That is a good point. Like that, I'll rephrase my verbiage next time.
Yeah.
Like that. I'm learning so much from you. You know, and speaking of, well, two things I want to mention. So one, just going back a little bit, what you said about if a therapist, hasn't done the work on themselves or been to therapy or goes to therapy, um, that they can cause unintentional harm to others, that they're trying to help.
Yeah.
So my father, he was a psychologist. He also got his PhD in psychology.
Mm,
He's never done the work, but he was a therapist at one point, and I can just imagine the
yeah.
and remember I told you I tried to get vulnerable with him and how it was, oh my goodness. I was like, he's hurt a lot of people in many ways. That's just one of the ways. But no, he's hurt a lot of people in many,
And,
many, many ways.
and hurt himself, whether he'll acknowledge it or not.
Exactly. Exactly. So, I do want to say this. We're coming up on an hour. I would love for you, and the reason why I continued it is because this was just such a powerful, powerful episode. I didn't want to cut it short. I would love for you to reschedule with me again so you
Yeah.
can come on for a part two. I plan on having you in season 11, which will come out in July. So if you can schedule any time in July, you can just use the same link.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
yes, and I will, and so we will, folks, there will be a part two to this, and we'll discuss why so many adults feel not good enough and identity after trauma. So we'll discuss that. So this will be part one.
Yeah.
This is Thank you. I'm literally on the brink of tears again. Just this time it's just gratitude. So thank you. Stay on. I'm about to close the show, but stay on after. Um, Alrighty, folks. Well, if no one has told you today that you are lovable and worthy of healing, allow me to be the first and allow yourself to be the second. Check out Mary Beth's links below, folks. If you want to start your healing journey, if you're just curious about it, check out Mary Beth's links below. Mary Beth, are people like where are you licensed? Like what states are you licensed to practice in?
Yes.
What if someone wants to
I'm
set up an appointment
licensed
with you?
in Mississippi and Oregon.
Okay. Oh, and they listen to the show. I was looking at their analytics the other day. So if you're in Oregon or Mississippi, do you do telehealth?
I do. Yes. My practice is soulshinecounselingandwellness.com.
Fabulous. If that link's not on your website, send it to me and I'll okay. So folks, just check below, okay? And get you some healing oh, wow, beautiful. Alrighty, folks. Well, I'm speechless, literally. So, stay tuned to next episode, whatever that will be.